Hamed, OMAR. I'm the Executive Director of Dar al-Farouk. I'm a member of Islamic Association of North America, IANA, and I'm a leader of Muslim Coalition with the Muslim Coalition of Isaiah. We are here as members of the Muslim community today in hopes that the unfounded, racist, and Islamophobic false allegation that child care assistance program fraud funding terrorism will end today. The CCAP report released today by the Office of Legislative Auditor once again confirmed with what people of goodwill and common sense have known for almost 10 months, that there is no evidence of CCAP funds going to fund terrorism. Since May of last year, several Republican legislators and even candidates for governor have been perpetuating an unsubstantiated and unfounded rumor that Somali child care providers are committing fraud and diverting CCAP funds and sending them to Somalia to fund terrorism. The Republican legislators who perpetuated this rumor irresponsibly fed Islamophobia and hatred that leaves us vulnerable to harassment and attacks every day. We were not the only people harmed by this lie. Legislators grandstanding about baseless allegations against Somali Muslim community regarding child care distract from the real moral crisis. More than 2,100 families are sitting on the child care assistance program waiting list, waiting to get desperately needed support so that they can access child care and provide for their families. I hope the dangerous political games are over.
Yes.
And that our elected leaders focus on the real issue, ensuring that the child care assistance program is fully funded so that every child in Minnesota has an opportunity for a bright start.
That's right. Yeah.
Instead of feeding Islamophobia and hatred, our elected leaders should be focused on leading to ensure that every Minnesota family can thrive.
That's right. That's right.
They should start by funding fully CCAP, and this is important, and thank you. Now I'm going to introduce Asad Zaman, the Imam of Muslim American Society Mass, to share with us a few words.
Good afternoon. I am Imam Asad Zaman, ASADZAMAN. I am the Executive Director of the Muslim American Society of Minnesota and a leader with the Muslim Coalition of Isaiah. The report released today by the Office of the Legislative Auditor confirmed what we have known for months. They found zero evidence to substantiate claims of $100 million of any CCAP funds going to terrorism. Since last May, when Fox News aired a story which has since been retracted, alleging $100 million of CCAP funds going to fund terrorism, many Republican legislators have taken every opportunity, even after the story was retracted, to advance this lie against our community. They held hearings, press conferences, and grandstanding performances of moral outrage against the Somali child care providers, without any evidence, not a single shred of evidence, to substantiate these outrageous claims. Several Republican legislators, and even the Republican candidate for governor, perpetuated the story, advancing Islamophobic rhetoric and baseless allegations. Their actions stoked hatred and fear against the Somali Muslim community throughout the last 10 months. Islamophobia is real, and it puts our community in real danger. I have personally received over a dozen death threats in the last year. The fact that elected leaders who are responsible to represent every Minnesotan advanced baseless attacks on our community is outrageous.
Yes.
The Republican response to the OLA report today should have started with an apology from elected leaders who propagated baseless allegations against the Somali community. There will, of course, be conversations about what we can do to address the report's findings about mismanagement of a small percentage of existing CCAP funds, and we support proactive solutions to strengthen the program. We want to make sure that all CCAP funds are managed properly, because CCAP funds are so precious and scarce.
That's right.
This is because Republican legislators have refused to adequately fund the program for years.
Yes.
If we want to talk in good faith at the legislature about strengthening the integrity of the CCAP program, let's start by addressing the fact that more than 2,100 families who are entitled to child care assistance don't have access to it today.
That's
Yes.
right. That's right.
That is the real scandal. So let's fully fund the program. Thank you.
That's right. That's right.
So now I want to welcome Nasro, a child care provider and also a member of Kids Counting as an initiative of Isaiah. Welcome, Nasro.
Hello, my name is Nasro Abshir, that's Nasro, last name is Abshir. I'm the owner and director of a child care center in Minneapolis called Family First. I have 22 employees and together we serve over 100 children. I'm also a core leader with Isaiah's Kids Count on Us initiative. My mom and I, like so many, have gone into childcare to help disenfranchised children get access to quality childcare. Our main objective is to give the tools and resources that so many children wouldn't normally receive. We love the work we do, and we're running and operating a center is a big commitment and takes a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. I've personally witnessed the positive effects of early childhood education in my community and other communities of color. When children are in an environment that is culturally appropriate, kids are more likely to succeed. Somali-owned and operated child care centers provide more than just space. We are providing something I never received from anywhere outside my home, which are feelings of comfort, safety, and security. Child care is a universal issue that touches every family. Child care and the problems that come with it transcend race and class, and I believe that child care should be a right for all children and that quality and equity are inseparable.
Right.
Those of us that cater to low-income children and families do so more than just provide care, and we stretch those dollars thin, but it's not enough. It costs money to be quality. It takes resources and administrative hours. Many of us are the only ones running our offices. Our center is open 7 days a week. Myself and other providers are working tirelessly around the clock to provide for our kids and make sure our centers are run smoothly. We are out here today to shed light on our story. All across Minnesota, providers are working tirelessly to provide quality care to children. We are actively trying to solve the child care crisis, and instead of increasing funding and creating legislation to help providers, we are being targeted by the media and politicians who have been pushing racist and discriminatory policies.
All right.
Funding early education is vital to helping already disadvantaged children succeed. By funding CCAP, we are investing in their future. Minnesota's funding for CCAP has been decreased by 25% since 2003 when you take inflation into account. False reporting has serious consequences and negatively affects our families and our kids. The Republicans campaigned on these lies during the last election cycle. We already knew these claims had no basis in reality, but the damage has been done. Our community was vilified and scapegoated for political gain. Elected officials used their power and influence to spread Islamophobic conspiracy theories. The safety and security of our community was and still is being threatened. Every Republican that peddled this lie of $100 million going to terrorists is unfit for public office. They have a responsibility to all Minnesotans to be informed and not spread propaganda. The most disturbing part is that DHS investigators in the CCAP fraud unit and lawmakers still agree with Scott Stillman after he was discredited time and time again for his lies. We as immigrants, Muslims, and people of color don't get the benefit of the doubt. It is assumed that we are in favor or in support of whatever criminality a few people are involved in.
Yes.
When it comes to banks, hospitals, or other corporations, it's a few bad apples, not a systematic problem that needs immediate legislation.
Yes.
False reporting has spread hate and division. This divisiveness goes against Minnesota values and should not be tolerated. We have been welcomed, encouraged, and supported here in this state, and we are here to say as Minnesotans, we won't stand for slander, for bullying and intimidation.
That's right.
We need politicians with real solutions. If elected officials are serious about fighting for kids and addressing racial equity in our states, we need them to stand up now and stop the harm that is being inflicted. Thank you.
Now I'm gonna welcome Janae, the Communication Director of Isaiah, to answer some few questions.
Hello, and thank you for being here today. My name is Minister Janae Bates. That is J-A, capital N-A-E, last name B-A-T-E-S. And I am the Communications Director for Isaiah and our initiatives Kids Count on Us and the Muslim Coalition of Isaiah. And I welcome any questions from the floor.
Question for Ms. Abshir. As you noted, the report today, separate from the terrorism thing, talks about and gives a lot of examples about fraud in the daycare community. And then the investigator's appendix, Mr. Swanson's appendix, goes into further detail on that. What insight, if any, do you have into how pervasive it is among your competitors, colleagues, others in the Somali daycare community?
Well, first, let me touch on that first, Dave, because I think it's important to remember that, so we organize, Isaiah organizes white people, black people, Latinos, and folks in the African community. And what we know to be true is that by far, they are the most scrutinized. Muslims and our East African community are most scrutinized, investigated, enforced than any other community. And so we know that to definitely be true. And so we need to remember that when we're talking about who's being placed in the front, who's being scapegoated, who's being used as the one to point blame to when it comes to things like this.